My name is Tamara and I'm an addict.
Hi, Tamara.
I don't really know what to say about Megan. We've always kind of crossed paths over the years, but here in the past couple years, we've been on some committees together and we've gotten super close. And, there's been some things like we'll both want to go to, and we're both like, are you going to be there? Are you going to be there? And then, we like to buddy up and run off and have a good time. I love this girl a whole lot. I love her recovery, her program. Her kids are super cute, and over the past year or so, I've gotten to really know her and love her, and I love you, girl.
All right. My name's Megan, and I'm an addict. I'm sure you guys wanted a bigger turnout, but I'm actually really excited that there's not too many people here. Sorry. Sorry about that. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I come from a long line of addicts. My mom, my dad, my grandpa died of alcoholism before I met him. My other side. So it just goes how it goes for a lot of us. So both my parents are addicts, and I'm assuming it's pretty obvious the chaotic way that you grow up with parents as addicts. I pretty young. I have 9 brothers and sisters. I have half step, whatever it is. A lot of brothers and sisters, and I always felt alone. When I was about 7, is when they kind of thought maybe something was up. I think that's when they started treating me for ADHD, depression. I don't know. They had me on a whole bunch of medication trying to figure me out. So I don't know what it was. I will tell you now. When I put my mind to something, despite whatever might be wrong with me, I usually tend to come out ahead, and that's through recovery. But so I grew up mainly with my mom in Oklahoma, and we lived over in Edmond. Her and my dad got divorced when I was 1.5. I don't really remember that. He's an abusive alcoholic, and she left him, which, some people kind of wonder what it was like if their parents stayed together, but that's too much crazy in one house for me. So I'm really glad that didn't stick. So they got divorced when I was pretty young. She is an addict as well. Hers was, there's no such thing as a manageable addict, but hers is a little bit different. She always kept her job. We always had health insurance. We had the stuff that looks pretty on the outside, but she would continuously go down these really bad paths and stuff, and we would get in the middle of it, and I ended up raising some kids, and she'd be out. Anytime she was single, I was taking care of the kids, and occasionally when she would remarry, then it would get a little better for a while because she'd stay home, and then if they separated, then there was usually more kids to watch, and then just do it all over again. And then I left my teenage years, moved out to California with my dad, and he's still abusive, and he's still an alcoholic, but for me, I didn't get the worst of it. It was mainly my stepmom who he had been married to for 20 years, and my brother. And I would always tell my brother, like, do like I do, like, just don't say anything, agree with him, he won't hit you if you act like, just don't have a voice. And somehow I internalized that and decided that I didn't have a voice. I started using drugs pretty young, and yeah, so that was high school. I got in trouble in Oklahoma too. I got in trouble a lot. They kept switching my schools and stuff, and I was acting out, and later on I'll get out of the victim role, I guess. A lot of that stuff I put on myself. And at my dad's house, so it was very chaotic. I moved out about 17. I had already known by then that I was an addict. I had tried to quit, so at least with my dad has always known he was an alcoholic. He's been in and out of rehabs. It's like the sick thing, like, so me and my brother used to keep like tally marks of how many rehabs he's been to. And by high school, it was over 20. It's just one of those, here we go again kind of thing. And now that I'm part of the program, I fucking get it, I do. And he would try, and I respect him for that. And so he was in and out. Our favorite times with him is right when he got out of rehab. I mean, he was like, and that's the hard part, man, when you got a good dad, board games, we'd watch movies, we would, it was normal. Like he's a good person. The disease of addiction tore my dad down, and so, I'm grateful for those times with him to kind of be able to see who he really is. And so in between was our favorite times, and, we would do the family stuff, and he's really good dad. And but when he would go back out, that's when I would go back out. So I started my patterns with him, but then when he would go to rehab, I'm like, oh shit, I got to like straighten up, because I don't want to be the reason why he relapses when he gets home, And so one time I couldn't, and I'm in high school, but I couldn't clean up when he came home. And that's kind of when it became apparent to me that I didn't have control. I had mentioned that I moved around a lot and went to different schools. So every time I started a new school, of course there's like the nice people. They were usually more along the lines of like, I don't know, somehow like church group, or usually like pretty friendly, and they'd come introduce themselves and they'd want to make friends, and and so of course I'd hang out with them for a little bit till I found my people. We're always going to find our people if that's what we're looking for. So I would have spurts of, I tried to get away from me. So I would, go to a new school and try to start over. No one knew me. No one knew my past. No one knew everything I was doing, and it never worked. I mean, within a month, whatever the cool people not even cool, whatever the people who were doing drugs hung out, I found them. And so that was my path, and that's where I went. And I did graduate high school with a 1.1 GPA. Anytime a teacher was going to fail me for not showing up or anything, I would do the sob story. My dad's an alcoholic, and this, and what do you expect from me? And I would usually get a pass, so it worked. But it didn't. I mean, I graduated with a 5th grade reading level. So I have that paper, but it didn't mean anything ultimately. So anyway, I go on my way, and my dad is getting really bad by now. Before, it would be like the relapse, it would last like 3 months, and he would go. We had lost our house for foreclosure. you know, the stuff we lose, right? So we lost everything. The cars, we had to find somewhere to go. And so my brother had just gotten a place up in this college town called Chico. And this is back in California. So I was like, all right, he had a room. It was $200 a month. I was like, I can do that with a pizza gig. And so I went up there, and I partied a lot. I don't remember much. I do know that lost some brain cells up there. I did try to go to college, though, at one point. I thought about going back to college, and I took my tests and everything like that, and they were like, I had to start at I think the lowest they started at for college courses was the 6th grade reading level, which was really hard. And so I did that, and my brother was going to EMT school, and he was trying to get me straight so that we could be, it killed him to see me going down the path of my dad's. It killed him to know that his sister was going to have that same life. And so, he tried, but I wasn't ready. So I went and I found myself a boyfriend, drug dealer, whatever. That was kind of my MO. And then my qualifications for dating me were you going to have a problem with my drug use, and can you help supply my drug use? And so that's basically what we did. And, eventually even some of those boyfriends or whatever you want to call them were like, you need to slow down. I don't know if this is okay. They don't want me dying on their watch probably. Anyway, I met this dude though, and he didn't care. We ran, and we had so much fun, I guess you could call it. In the beginning it was because it was partying and stuff like that, and it turned really dark really fast. We partied, and we would when you have a running partner in the beginning, we were scamming everyone else, so at least we were still on the same side. We were getting everybody else. And then eventually we were getting each other. We were stealing from each other. We were lying to each other. Whatever we needed to do to get more drugs, even if it was turning on the other, it was happening. And about that time, I found out I was pregnant. And that is my first child. She is almost 9. And by that point, we're sleeping in 2 different rooms. I was further along than I wanted to be when I found out. I stopped doing dope. I did. And that was the clarity for me once I found out. Well, for one, I was so scared because I had been doing dope while pregnant. And I didn't know I was pregnant. And then throwing up was a part of my habit every day. So whenever I was pregnant, morning sickness wasn't really a sign for me. I had pretty much been so numb that any signs your body gives you that something's wrong or something's different, I don't know. I just had just drugs. And so I was pregnant. We had the child. Her name is Mackenzie, and she's wonderful. Anyway, so that running buddy, my best friend at one point, who we ended up turning on each other, I took my daughter and was like, at that point we're living in basically a garage with a bathroom. I was like, this is not how I want to raise my child. This is not this is not what I want. But right after she was born, so I was clean after I'd found out. I got clean. I didn't seek a program or anything. Just stopped using drugs. So I was miserable. Anyway, and but after I had her in that hospital, I guess you could call it a relapse, whatever. It was on from there when she was out of my stomach. And so I called my mom freaking out because she was in one of her spurts of not using drugs. And I was like, I don't want my daughter to be raised like this. My significant other was out of his mind by that point. And I was like, we need to get out of here. And so she got us a ticket. I just said we were going for 2 weeks and we never came back. And that's how I ended up back in Oklahoma. So basically my mom and her new husband turned into glorified babysitters. So I could do what I wanted to do. But at least my daughter was safe, is the way I justified it. She didn't need a mom. She had, someone taking care of her. And so that's when, that's basically what I did for a few months. And I get a call from, most of you guys know who my significant other is. I just don't know if I can say it. I get a call from my significant other's mom. And she's like, I'm taking Aaron into rehab. I found needles. I found this. I found, the stuff you find. And there was a guy that he did wrong looking for him and whatever. She's like, I need to get him out of town. And I'm like, it's not my job anymore. Basically, it's like, not my problem. I had my own problem at home, but she didn't know that. And so she's checked him into rehab. So me and Mackenzie go on our way. My mom's pretty much raising her. I'm working at Buffalo Wild Wings till 3 a.m. and whatnot. And Aaron called me. Oh shit, my significant other. I don't know. I'm trying to make sure I don't mess up anonymity, but he called me from rehab, and that was my first glimpse of hope. Like I said, my dad's been in and out, and but he's never spoken highly of the programs. He's never a huge fan. He liked the idea of being clean, but he just never really immersed himself in a 12-step. To each his own, but I didn't know they worked. I knew he had been in some, but I didn't know what people could get out of these. And so he called me and he was like, Megan, yeah, and it's like, you got to get clean. He's like, this is unreal. It was hope, man. And that's the person I was running around with. We were going to die together, if we kept on the path we were going on. And he was on fire. You ever see someone that comes into the room and is on fire? That person wants, I'm like, I need to go home and do some step work when I see someone like that, And so he was on fire like that, and it was my first glimpse of hope. Fuck, he feels good. He was worse than me, because everyone else is always worse than you. But anyway, so he got clean, and I took my time with it. I knew he was coming out for Christmas when he got out of rehab. So I was like, okay, I got this much time until I got to get clean. And so I continued to use, even though, I saw the glimmer of hope and stuff. I didn't know where to start, And it was getting closer to the time that he was going to come out. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out what this stuff is. I got to figure out a way to get off of what I'm on. And so I went to Barnes & Noble and asked them for an NA Blue Book, and they don't have those there. I didn't know, like, that's how clueless I was. I didn't know where to start. And so once I figured out I couldn't get one there, I got humble and I asked around and I was like, hey, what do I do? Where do I start? And then someone pointed me to a 12-step meeting. And that's what I started doing. Started going to meetings. I sat in the back. Didn't want you guys to notice me. Didn't want you to know I was new. But, you know, when someone's new, it's pretty damn obvious. And which is, it's freaking great. Newcomers the reason why, you know, we keep coming back. So, yeah, I just sat in the back. Didn't want you all to know I was new. I didn't want any extra attention. I didn't pick up a key tag until my 1 year. But you guys kept telling me to come back. It was a small group. That's why my heart is with small groups. I love the big ones, and I love, you know, especially if there's a treatment center in there, and just raw. But I will tell you, the small groups is where I thrive. It's hard to hide in the back, you know. It's hard to slide in and out of meetings. And they didn't let me do that. And I think it saved my life, you know. They wouldn't let me go. And they would invite me to out to eat with them every single week after the meeting. And I would go. I wouldn't say anything. People still scared the shit out of me. I was so, like, I'm still shy, but I was really shy then. And I would go, though, and I would hear you guys laugh, and I would hear, you know, that hope again from another source, you know. It was alive, so I kept coming back. It was my favorite night of the week. I didn't say anything. I just listened. I didn't really understand the program for a while. I went to the meetings, but you guys were talking gibberish. It was like, I didn't, especially when you guys start talking about like spiritual principles and anything like that. It was all very like, I want to be like that. I want to know how to talk like that. It wasn't like, I want to feel like that. I wanted to know how to say all the right things. And none of that happened right away. I went and I finally got a sponsor. Oh, somewhere in between there, Aaron came back. He came out to Oklahoma. And we're both starting over clean together. I don't know if anyone's ever told you, if you want to find out your character defects, get in a relationship in recovery. Yep. And we also grow at different paces in recovery in different areas. So that one was a hard one for me. You know, it's kind of funny. Just because you're working on something doesn't mean it's someone else's time to work on something. Something I learned. But yeah, it's been a journey. So he moved back, and I love him, I do. It's just a journey. Anyway, so I'm in recovery. I'm about a year clean. I finally admit to you guys that I was new the whole time. Shocker. And so I pick up my 1 year, and things are going good, man. I got this little home group. I got these group of friends. We started a little women's meeting at one of my friends' house, and that was probably where, aside from working directly with my sponsor, where a lot of my recovery came in. We got real honest, and we dove into stuff. We dove into things like certain topics. Gossip. Gossip happens in the rooms. It happens everywhere, right? It's unavoidable. But I had an accountability buddy for the first 2 years of my recovery when it came to gossip. And so she's like, what I said, is that gossip? And then we kind of reevaluate it, and we'd pick it apart and do what we do with a lot of the actions we have to do. You know, we have to be self-aware in this program. And we'd pick apart what we kind of did and figure out, oh, maybe that's where I crossed the line. And we grew up together, you know. And I'm extremely grateful for that women's group. It was really cool and much needed. You can get the same out of, you know, any group, but that's what I needed right then and there. So it was good. Somewhere around the second year of recovery, I have my second child. Maybe I was 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know. And she is another girl. Her name is Olivia. And she's spunky as hell. She scares the crap out of me. She's so much like me. I was like, oh God. Oh, my poor parents, right? And so anyway, I have my sweet little Olivia, and doing the thing. I go back to school for real this time. And I graduated on the dean's honor roll. I had to do some extra schooling because I had to start at that 6th grade reading level. It's a little harder for me because there is some learning stuff there, like the dyslexia and stuff like that. But I pushed through. And it's not just me. I have a tendency to do this. Sometimes when I talk, I'm like, I am an addict because, like, I forget that it's a we thing. Because on my own demise, I'm still in Chico, slowly killing myself, you know. But without this program and without my higher power, none of that's possible. So I get my associate's degree. I stopped there. I'm thinking about going back. But I have something that I'm proud of. So, like, when I said I had my diploma, I wasn't proud of that. You know, how I got that is through playing the victim, saying what I needed to say to get what I want, manipulating people. I wasn't proud of that. I'm proud of my associate's degree. You know, that was effort, that was work. And so that's big for me. So I was really proud of that one. And then, so I get that degree. I have this second kid. Things are rolling. Man, sponsor. I got myself a sponsor somewhere in there. And, God, if you don't have a sponsor, that was another game changer for me, you know? That was when the gibberish that you guys were talking about started to make sense. When I started working steps. When I actually started doing the work. Man, my first 4th step, I was nervous. I was so nervous. And what was really cool about it to me is when I was reading it, there was parts about it that I knew that were going to upset me. You know, like the stuff about my dad or any emotional abuse, my resentments towards the school system, stuff like that I knew were going to upset me. But there was underlying things that I just started crying at. And I didn't know they affected me that bad. I didn't know that was a subject that, I guess I'm really glad it was on there. But, you know, that was my 4th step. And then we went the glorious 9th step. Well, and character defects and stuff like that. I work on those sometimes. Mainly when they're super glaring. If they're creating a huge issue for me is usually when I'll start to look at them. You know, I identify them through my step work, and I know they're there, but until something gets really unmanageable, just like most things, that's usually when I'll dive into my service work or my step work. Maybe one day I'll get out of that pattern, but for now, I'm still clean. Anyway, so my 9th step is, it's funny, you know, through working the steps, you know, I talked about my parents earlier. they were huge parts of my 4-step. I had a lot of resentments towards them. But man, if I didn't find NA, if I didn't find recovery, there's no telling, I probably would have been worse. I probably would have been a worse parent to my children if I didn't find these rooms, you know. That helped me make my peace with them, and the things they went through. Because that's a scary thought, you know, that they weren't able to find the peace we're able to find, you know. I would hate to be still living like that. I would hate it. And so I pray for my dad. I pray him every time we circle up. We don't circle up anymore. Every time we sit in place, I pray for my dad to come into the rooms. And can't make them, right? And so step work's huge. We go on, I don't know, somewhere in there. I got pregnant again. So, but this time it's a boy. I love my little boy. Oh, he's so cute. And got pregnant again with a Parker, and I was extremely upset. I was not ready for another child. You know, when you're in recovery, you're like trying to get your life back in order and take these steps. I just finished that associates I was so proud of, you know, so then I was going to focus on my career and I was going to do these things, and now I'm pregnant. And I went to a meeting. It was an all women's meeting, and I just cried for an hour. Was not a huge crier. Probably would have never admitted that I cried before recovery. But, you know, I'm grateful to not be numb today. So I went in that meeting and I cried. And that little boy has been the biggest blessing ever. And so whenever I had him, shortly after that, so I had mentioned that me and my significant other and our 3 kids are all together. And he's the reason. So on my first, you know how it says, do you have any reservations? Mine was if this person left the program, I probably would too. Because I got clean for that person, right? I didn't get clean for me originally. That was on my first 4-step. And he relapsed. Man, you know, and I think I was far enough in my recovery to where I thought it wasn't a possibility anymore, or like we were on this road to having this perfect little life, and then life hits you, you know. Never ever have I ever wanted to use so much when that happened, since getting clean. But I didn't. Just like when I found out I was having that boy and I went and cried, I did the same thing. I went to my home group and I just it was Burning Desires, and I couldn't get words out, but I said, I'm not okay. I'm just not okay, guys, you know. And I wasn't. And man, the people in this program, they were there. I had my sponsor texting me daily. We did so much work for 6 months, but I didn't use. So, you know, cool little blessings that come out of hard times. My reservation was no longer a reservation. I stayed clean through it. Also, you know, I had a hard time with empathy before that happened. I hadn't really gone through a lot of hard times in recovery. Had a pretty, you know, everything was kind of falling into place, and everything was stacking up and everything was good, but having a setback like that, really helped with my inability to be empathetic. I'm always like, I've always been a kind of like, well, suck it up, like keep going, you know, don't stop long enough to let it feel or hurt or whatever. That was the first time I let myself feel sad. And that was the first time I've been able to kind of understand, or at least now I know how to be there for someone when they're going through something like that. And so that was really cool for me. And then, you know, there's always these lessons in all these hard times, right? So now I have this little boy. I have 3 kids now. The only one that I've ever used is my oldest, and she is 9. But I got clean a month before her first birthday. So if I stay on the path I'm on and just no matter what, today I don't use, they don't ever have to see me use. And hopefully she doesn't remember me using because she was less than a year. But, and I just think that's a blessing, you know, the fact that everyone in here is changing like the course of history for their families, you know. We just don't have to use no matter what. And that's what I'm extremely grateful for. And we have to get honest in here. And honesty was really hard for me. I'm manipulative. I'll say whatever I need to say to get my way. And when you have to get honest, you know, an example of some like honesty with yourself. So it's not even just other people. But when I had my second child, they gave me a script because sometimes you get medicine after you have a baby. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to refill this. You know, I'm not going to do it. I'm not even going to get it at all. And then on my 3rd day after having the baby, I decided, I think I'm going to go fill it. You know, I wasn't going to tell Aaron. I was just going to do it. And then I had to get honest with myself. Am I in more pain today than I was yesterday? No. Why do I need it today? Your disease wants it today, you know. You don't want it, you know. And so I didn't fill it. And I don't like to talk, because everyone's different. But if you're honest with yourself, you talk to a sponsor, have a higher power, do what you need to do. But for me, that's not what I needed to do on day number 3 if I was in less pain than day number 2, you know. Just awesome things like that. How am I doing on time?
Carry on.
Really? Okay, good. Well, that's me. You know, there's a couple things I don't know what I talked about at this point, but I appreciate you guys for listening to me.